the end of China's trade surplus era? Hong Kong exports have fallen the most in 70 years. Low pensions in China force returning to work, elderly told to help themselves. China expands defense spending amid complex security challenges. China's real estate, new stimulus policy not working, real estate agents quit. If China's regime fully controls Taiwan, the world will lose $2.5 trillion annually. As Chinese media Xinhua Zhizhang reported on February 27th, Hong Kong's Investigation and Statistics Bureau released statistics on external goods trading. It shows in January 2023, the overall value of Hong Kong's exports was over $42 billion, 290.9 billion yuan, down 36.7% year-on-year, the sharpest decline since September 1953, and far from the expected results. The official value of Hong Kong's exports to Asia fell by 41.4%, with exports to Japan, Singapore, and Taiwan falling the most, with a decrease of 50%, 45.2%, and 45.1% respectively, year-on-year. Its export value to China also decreased by 43.7%. Besides Asia, Hong Kong's exports to Europe, the US, and other countries also declined at double-digit rates, at which the export value to Germany fell by 40%, the US decreased by 28.8%, and the UK decreased by 27%. Hong Kong's import value also tended to decrease. The imported goods value in January was $40.3 billion, down 30.2% year-on-year, worse than expected. It's also the most significant one-month decline in 56 years since September 1967 and the smallest import volume since February 2020. Import value from China decreased by 39.1% year-on-year and dropped sharply from other suppliers, including Vietnam, South Korea, Japan, Singapore, and Malaysia. Hong Kong financial commentator Li Shimin told RFA the U.S.-China trade war has not subsided and the impact of many companies withdrawing their supply chains from China has appeared, causing Hong Kong, which is too dependent on China's market, to suffer the consequences. He said it is not the Yatian port of Shenzhen that has robbed Hong Kong's import-export business, as Shenzhen itself has no business. Hong Kong's dependence on Chinese exports has become a negative economic factor. Li Shimin believes now is the beginning of the recession. He said because the financial sector is under attack, it is difficult to agree with Hong Kong's optimistic forecast for more than 3% economic growth in the future. RFA quoted economist Li Shimin as saying Hong Kong's import and export activities are an indicator to observe China's foreign exchange situation. Previously, Hong Kong's port trade was busy because most of the products exported from China were transferred and settled in Hong Kong. The current decline in Hong Kong import and export figures and the empty container rate at Shenzhen port is significant evidence that China's export orders have fallen across the board. Li Shimin said not only is China's position as the world's factory in danger, but the old way of relying on a trade surplus to boost economic growth has ended. He said, before the U.S.-China trade war, Shenzhen's exports used to be very busy and there was never enough containers. Now it's the opposite. Imports are more than exports. The U.S.-China trade war has severely limited China's exports. As a result, many goods are forced into inventory, making it difficult for foreign trade. In the past, China relied on trade surplus to earn foreign currency and raise capital for its economic development. I fear this will be blocked in the future, he said. Li Shimin also pointed out that due to the CCP's insistence on the zero-COVID policy for the past 2 years, it has missed the opportunity to catch up with the world, causing foreign trade orders to flow to India and Southeast Asia. As a result, China is going through a transition from a big country with a trade surplus to a China with a trade deficit, he said. In response to China's aging population, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, encourages low-age seniors in their 50s and 60s to return to the workplace after retirement to achieve active aging. But promoting this policy will further crowd out the already sluggish employment opportunities for young people, said Radio Free Asia on March 3rd. The report pointed out that care for the elderly is to repay the contributions of the elderly by issuing pensions and providing elderly care services. At the same time, do something for the old encourages the elderly to create value through experience. The question is whether the CCP's push for this policy is aimed at alleviating its growing pension shortfall. China Digital Times pointed out this Friday, March 3rd, that according to statistics, China will have 267 million people aged 60 and older in 2021, representing 18.9% of the country's total population. The CCP's pension shortfall is over $101 billion, 700 billion yuan. In an interview, Li Qiang, head of the U.S.-based NGO China Labor Watch, said the Chinese authorities are trying to solve the pension problem by introducing employment for the lower-aged. Li Qiang added, "The pension gap is huge. There is a huge shortage of pensions, so he needs to extend the retirement period so that people close to retirement can re-enter the labor market." Li Qiang continues that with the recent rise in prices, CCP pensions are shrinking in disguise, so the promotion of re-employment of the elderly aims at easing the financial pressure on the elderly. Elderly employment pushes young people into labor-intensive industries. Li Qiang also pointed out that in addition to pension constrictions, the CCP's push for employment for the elderly will also push underemployed young people into cheap, labor-intensive industries. Let these young people be driven to work in cheaper, less expensive factories. However, Li Qiang argues that the CCP's policy of encouraging older employees to squeeze young people into sweatshops is not feasible. Li Qiang pointed out, the way he wants to do it is not feasible because now young people can't find a job. If he allows the younger elderly to return to the market, it will aggravate the young people's inability to find a job. Adding to Hu Ping's opinion, the editor-in-chief of Beijing Spring says the significant shortage of pensions and that people are living longer leads to delaying the retirement age. However, Hu Ping pointed out that the one-child policy also makes China's aging problem particularly serious and urgent once it appears. Accordingly, the elderly would most likely return to the workforce in non-labor force jobs that young people want to work in but do not have vacancies. So promoting employment for the elderly would increase unemployment among China's youth. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has said it will raise its defense budget this year amid growing geopolitical tensions. Spokesman of the National People's Congress, Wang Chao, said at a press conference on March 4th, the increase in defense spending is needed for meeting complex security challenges and for China to fulfill its responsibilities as a major country. Wang didn't detail how much China would invest in its military for the year. He, however, maintained that it has traditionally been moderate and reasonable. He added, the modernization of China's military will not pose a threat to any country. The official figure will be released in the national budget on March 5th at the CCP's annual meeting. Last March, the country pledged almost $230 billion, 1.45 trillion yuan, to its defense spending. It was a 7.1% hike from 2021. The Centers for Strategic and International Studies noted that there have been transparency questions on China's official number. A chart provided by the think tank showed that its Ministry of Finance tends to report a lower number than in the Defense White Paper. In 2017, the discrepancy was $2.9 billion. CSIS said this discrepancy may be the result of the Ministry of Finance excluding the costs associated with militia forces in its defense figures. The official tally also skips taking into account some military-related outlays that CSIS listed, including military research and development, aspects of China's space program, defense mobilization funds, authorized sales of land or excess food produced by some units, recruitment bonuses for college students, and provincial military base operating costs. In 2021, the U.S. Department of Defense estimated that China's actual defense expenditure may be 1.1 to 2 times higher than its official budget. China has many reasons to beef up its military capacity. It has been more aggressive in Taiwan reunification, the U.S. and allies are more present in the disputed South China Sea and strategic islands, and its border issues with India is also simmering. Over the past 2 years, house prices have continuously fallen in China. However, until now, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP's real estate rescue policy has not shown effectiveness and houses still aren't selling. For example, in February this year, Luoyang city authorities announced a particular preferential policy for real estate investors in Henan province. Just by paying 20%, customers will receive a home. The Luoyang authority also encourages the adjustment of the deposit reduction so that investors can easily own a second home. However, Da Jiuwan cited Daily People, a main CCP mouthpiece, saying that the Luoyang city policy of stimulating real estate was ineffective. Sun Pang, a real estate broker with 8 years of experience in Luoyang, said that after the authorities offered a new stimulus policy, the number of housing transactions has stayed about the same. Sun explained that homebuyers believe that the low deposit to own a house means more money that they have to borrow from banks. They do not want to live with such a high loan, so they are not excited about the new policy. Sun revealed that the real estate company where he works is famous in Luoyang City, but due to the stagnant real estate market in the past 2 years, nearly 2/3 of the more than 2,000 employees of this company quit their jobs. At an event at the Hudson Institute on March 2nd, U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan said that if Taiwan fell to the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, the global economy would lose $2.5 trillion annually. He said he got this information after asking intelligence agencies what would the world look like in the aftermath of a successful invasion of Taiwan by the CCP. Sullivan said that if the CCP captured Taiwan, the U.S. would suffer damage to its advanced weapon systems such as F-35 fighter jets, radar, and missile defense capabilities. Citing the memoirs of former President Dwight D. Eisenhower, Sullivan said the loss of Taiwan would affect the security of Japan, the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, and Okinawa. He added that the collapse of Taiwan would free China from pressure from the military system of the first island chain, and so the CCP will threaten the U.S.'s second island chain. The senator also said that CCP's complete control over Taiwan would encourage its model of authoritarian rule worldwide. Sullivan said Taiwan produces up to 92% of the world's most advanced semiconductors. He said, imagine what would happen if that was not only taken offline, but controlled by the CCP. Due to the danger of CCP taking over Taiwan, Senator Dan Sullivan urged the world to stand with Taiwan Act. STAND in Sullivan's call is an acronym for Sanctions Targeting Aggressors of Neighboring Democracies. The act mentioned includes measures to curb the CCP, such as punishing CCP members, banning U.S. entities from cooperating with CCP-related entities, or prohibiting importing products from China.